Now, this is the space for a special presentation. This presentation is done by Dr. Sampath Wahala, the Chairman of Sri Lankan Accreditation Board, based on international certification for your professional qualification. Sir, the stage is yours.
Very good morning to you all. His Excellencies and delegates coming to Sri Lanka from from different regions to talk about the quality and linking the sustainable development and the quality education, which is need for the future. Especially, I must thank to Mr. Janaka Kamalgoda, President, International Association for Quality Education, and Mr. Niranjan, one of our board members of Sri Lanka Accreditation Board, Governing Council of Sri Lanka Accreditation Board, connecting Sri Lanka Accreditation Board to come over here to give some kind of understanding on how the accreditation can support on the quality education. As also I am from academic community, so I think that I can deliver some of the content which is useful. Probably you may have heard and you are well aware of some of the context, content and the in this academic context. So however, as referring to the title that we have selected in this year session, conference, Education for Sustainable Development. So the quality has to be there and the sustainable development connect with the quality education, which will really support us to not to make a burden for the future generation, as very clearly highlighted by Honorable Professor Ranjit Manduma Bandara. So I have selected the title Ensuring Quality Education and plus Environment. What is our role of the accreditation in the national quality infrastructure? So the quality infrastructure and the accreditation bodies it's a well-known concept. There are about 213 accreditation authorities all over the world, covering 184 economies. So that is with that in Sri Lanka we have a Sri Lanka Accreditation Authority doing the same kind of service in the quality infrastructure. So I put a kind of a definition. So we don't need to. This is not actually a lecture or something, but to give some kind of understanding. The accreditation is independent, and it's also a voluntary kind of an evaluation of maybe laboratories, certification bodies, and some of the entities, those who are engaging with conformity assessments. So like certification bodies, they following some of the certifications or the standards, giving certification or awarding certification for entities, aligning or the confirming to the criteria given in that particular standards, which are very familiar with some of the standards, criteria, guidelines. And likewise in the laboratories, yes, they do some of the testing in compliance with certain criteria, following certain guidelines, following some of the methodologies. That is also a conformity assessment. So likewise, they do different entities, different organizations, they do assure quality on certain areas, the product manufacturing to service, any area which we are utilizing. If you look at a product, yes, there are certain quality parameters that we have to meet. And if you provide a service, yes, there are certain parameters that we have to meet in terms of assuring the quality. So in accreditation is actually, in simple terms, we can consider it as a checking of checkers. So those who are checking conformances, or what we call the conformity assessment bodies, and the accreditation authorities, they are to check their activities on conformity assessment. So that is very simple understanding, that there is a simple explanation to understand the concept of accreditation body, and it's a voluntary. So we cannot regulate accreditation. So it has to be voluntary, and as to the international norms and understanding. Yes, this is actually the conceptual kind of framework in the Sri Lankan quality infrastructure. So every countries we have a quality infrastructures. So ultimately, with the quality infrastructure facilities, what we are going to ensure the safe quality deliveries of any kind of a product or service, ensuring the environment sustainability, right? So we extract things and produce things and deliver to customers, making some pollutions, and also all these things that we do utilizing these resources, primary industries, secondary or tertiary industries, to make ourselves comfortable, to enhance the quality of life of our people. And also we have to make sure when we do that enhancement of the quality of life of ours, to look after the environment and also look after the or the safeguard the health or whatever the safety in the humankind and other environment components. So that is at the end the consumers that we are receiving all those things. We have a national quality policy. According to the national quality policy, the second thing that we need to have is a quality council. At the moment it's not established. However, other components like standard institution and measuring is one of the key component, and conformity assessment body should be there, and the regulator should be there to fulfill the connectivity of delivering these quality service to the consumers. So under that the quality infrastructure components, standards, metrology, maybe scientific, scientific and also the legal metrology, and also the accreditation will connect all these things. And that the quality, the components will support manufacturers or the exporters, importers to check whether these deliveries or the components what they supply to the consumers are in line with set parameters set by standard institutions. So this is a very generic the structure of quality infrastructure. Little bit of elaboration to understand it. You see that the Sri Lanka accreditation body or the accreditation is at the end, it's not very visible to the consumers. So standard institutions, all the countries they have standard institution. In Sri Lanka we have Sri Lanka Standard Institution, which develop or adapt international standards or develop national standards. And also we have measuring unit and standard department, so that they are looking after the measurements, scientific or the legal metrology, basically in technical terms. And there are certain conformity assessment body or the certification bodies, laboratories, and those type of people engaging, delivering some of the service related to products and services. So with this infrastructure, the accreditation board plays a key role independently and voluntary to make sure these operations are in line and in accordance with international norms. Then with this process, we can get internationally recognized services or deliveries to customers. Next slide, please. Just to get some idea about the global quality infrastructure, this is actually global quality infrastructure index. So actually this is the last year's the findings. So Sri Lanka, we had the overall ranking is 61. So the last year actually it was 62. You can see to that indicator you have to consider the standards, measurements, and also the accreditations. Together we can achieve the quality level of a country delivering goods and services to consumers. So in here actually we happy that for the last year we were in accreditation in the 59 level, but in this year we have seen the progress reaching to 50. But however, as a country we have reached up to only from one level, as we were this 62 level in the last year. However, just to get some idea, so it's not accreditation is not only one entity's work, it's a kind of a collective work of the few entities. So in Sri Lanka accreditation body, so we offer few accreditations. I'm not going to explain detail, but I make a connection to what we are discussing today in this referring to quality education later on. So in accreditations, as Sri Lanka accreditation body, we are partner with we have a mutual recognition agreement with International Laboratory Accreditation Corporation and International Accreditation Forum, and also we have regional partner mean the authority corporation, APAC accreditation, Asia Pacific Accreditation Corporation. So under that structure, we have in Sri Lanka we have given accreditation for laboratories, certification bodies, inspection bodies, and validation and verification bodies. So given below are some of the schemes that we are in operation to serve give this accreditation for different entities. Next slide, please. Just to get some idea how we make sure or how we confirm the quality delivery on this concept of standardization, conformity assessment, and the accreditation. So the lowest level, what we deliver to the customers, so whatever the deliveries. In that product producers, suppliers, sometimes they have to comply to certain standards, right, given by or developed by standard bodies, right, voluntary or regulatory as a regulatory requirement. And the conformity assessment body, what they do is their engagement is to determine the compliance of these standards that they are in operation. I'll take some of the examples later on, then you can have a clear understanding if you are not very familiar with this concept. Then what we do is, as accreditation body, we assess the competencies of the conformity assessment body, that is those who are engaging with checking the compliance or for in line with the standards with the product and service deliveries. And so we make sure the deliveries are in line with the international norms. So they have a competency, they are doing impartially, likewise we assess. So that's a kind of a long process. However, that is the ultimate objective of it. And to make sure our assessments, so normally the peers are evaluating accreditation authorities every 4 years. That is a normal practice, that we have to make sure that our services or our assessment are in line with internationally recognized approaches. So that's how the accreditation works. That's why I told previously, accreditation is a kind of a checking of compliance to certain standards. For testing and calibration laboratories under the 17025, so these numbers are the key things that we are all the time referring to. Calibration laboratories and also medical laboratories, we do accreditation for medical laboratories under 15189, and for inspection bodies and for proficiency testing bodies, and also we have accreditation for management system certification body covering environment management system, quality management system. Likewise, there are few schemes, and also good laboratory practice, which is actually the guide that we have developed national guideline based on the OECD guideline, and product certification, personal certification, and validation and verification. So we offer this accreditation scheme. However, please next slide. I have selected few accreditation schemes, management systems and laboratories, and validation and verification, and the GLP will elaborate little more as we see that these standards or the accreditation schemes can support education institutions to deliver or achieve what they are expecting as a quality, assuring the delivery of quality education and also assuring the environment quality. So as you have selected the title, Education for Sustainable Development. So driving towards the sustainable development, we have to comply, we can get use of some of the international recognized standards to achieve that objective. So under the accreditation of management system certification bodies, this is actually in line, aligned with ISO 17001. So those who have the accreditation under 17021 can certify organizations, including education institutions, with these standards, right? So ISO 9001 is familiar standards and the most popular standard among the world, and 9001 is for the quality management system. If you deliver something quality, even that was applicable for education systems, so institutes we have seen in Sri Lanka as well. So few organizations, education institutions have achieved 9001, but later on you see a standard at the bottom, ISO 21001, which is specifically designed and developed to support education organizations. So at the moment in accreditation body, we are working on promoting with the support of Sri Lanka Standard Institute, and to penetrate this standard to education institution, which will support to align all our activities in academic institution to develop or to set up a system to improve continually. So we know that we do delivery, we teaching and learning, examination, and a lot of other administrative activities within that. So with that standard, we see that we can achieve, we can develop a system which will not create much of a burden for our core functions. So these are some of the key advantage of that standard. And in addition to that, go back to the second standard, 14001, is again very familiar to all of us, which is the management system standard for managing environment of our institutions. It's applicable for production or service sector organization. So it covers our aspect or the activities and related impact that we create, and identifying those things, we can develop a system to minimize those impacts. That 14001 standard will support us. And also, if we are thinking of going green, greening the education system, which is the standard will support organizations to think of, right? And also 45001 occupational health and safety, yes, in education institutions, even though we don't have much of risk activities, but we can think of implementing these standards as well, because we have seen some of the incidents happening in even universities, other education systems related to occupational health and safety. This occupational health and safety, specifically if you look at the scope of this standard, this is not applicable, or as we think, only for the injuries, for physical injuries. No, that addresses the mental health as well. So if you can identify the risk, and we can come up with some of the solutions according in line with the standard, 45001 standard. And also, if you think of safeguarding the environment, energy is a key for that. 50001 gives us the framework to manage our energy use in our institutions, which directly link with our profitability as well. And also, as we are dealing with confidential information, right? So 27001 is in information security management system. Some of the education institutions, they have applied and complied to this standard as well. So in Sri Lanka Accreditation Body, we are also giving accreditation for certification bodies on that as well. So these are some of the key standards, management system standards that we can use or we can implement in any education organization, irrespective of the scale, right? And also these are voluntary things. We don't see any countries regulate these things. However, in Sri Lanka also now we are having some of the discussion not to regulate but to promote among still at the moment we are very closely working with Sri Lanka quality assurance with the University Grants Commission to penetrate this concept in the universities. Just to get some idea, actually I have taken one example of certifying an organization for an environment management system. This is applicable, this framework is applicable for all the system management system standards. Certificate entity, they have to implement develop the system in accordance with whatever the preferred management system. You can have a integrated management system as well. And once you implement it, you can, if you are thinking of going for the third-party recognition or the international recognition, so then you can go for the third-party verification or validators, the third-party entity, which is a confirmed assessment body or the certification body, to come and verify you or assess you. Once you assess, if they correct your non-conformities, if they find during the assessment, if you correct it, then you can get the certification. But getting that certification is not just to have a certificate and place on the wall. No, if you really implement these systems, definitely you have a benefit out of it. Actually, this is only for the 14,000 note, but the similar approach is there for all other management system standards. Next slide, please. The second accreditation, which is I need to highlight here, is personal certification bodies, accreditation for personal certification bodies. This is under 17.24. In simply, if you are going to certify a person for competency or the skill, so we can use this standard, right? So now in any school or a higher education institution, we at the end you give away a certificate, graduate certification. That's a one-off thing. So in this personal certification scheme, so that giving a one-off certification is not, that is actually something beyond that. So we have to have a kind of a mechanism to evaluate their competencies. We can have a personal certification scheme even for graduate students or looking for some other skills. And at the moment we are working with vocational training authorities in Sri Lanka to look into the possibilities to give international recognition through this person certification scheme to get them more credible, transparent, going through the credible, transparent process to give them international recognition on whatever the area that they are working. And also, when we are talking about the greening education system, so we know that in any education system we use energies, materials, and we do pollution during all the activities, right? Directly and indirectly. So one of the key issue that at the moment all the people are talking is climate change related other issues. So for that specifically there's a standard which is called the Greenhouse Gas Management Standard. Sri Lanka Accreditation Body also we are offering accreditation under the 17.29, which is accreditation on the validation and verification bodies. When you look at the validation and verification body at the moment, most prominent scheme is ISO 14064 Greenhouse Gas Management Standard. There are a lot of standards with that, and we see to show the commitment to reduce the impact of the operations to the climate. We all know what is climate change and the consequences. We don't need to explain it to this type of organization. We see some of the apparel and some of the manufacturing industries, even from laborers, they know well about the concept and the consequences of the climate change, those who have implemented these greenhouse gas management scheme. So next slide, please. And under that scheme, there are a lot of standards, organization level of carbon footprint, carbon neutrality, and carbon footprint. All these standards can be applicable for education institution. This is one example. Very recently, one of Sri Lankan universities, Sri Jayawardena University, closer to Colombo. University of Jayawardena, first university in South Asia to report its greenhouse gas emissions. So they have shown their commitment to climate change. So likewise, the education institutions can think of implementing some of the standards as I have mentioned previously. Next slide. And also as education institutions, especially the higher education institutions, we have laboratories. We do research, different types of research for different purposes. Now this good laboratory practice is a kind of the starting point if you are thinking of going beyond this type of recognition to get international recognition, the recognition on testing laboratories, which will create some kind of benefit utilizing some unutilized or underutilized laboratories to create some money, providing services to other institutions, those who are looking for testing or sometimes calibration. So this good laboratory practice is actually we are promoting to at the moment we are working with the universities to promote this concept. Implementing good laboratory practices will create a kind of an awareness on all the students about the quality systems as what we are receiving through different processes as commodities that we use. So therefore, we encourage, if you are thinking of implementing this, so if you have laboratories, with some kind of little bit of investment, you can start with implementing good laboratory practice, and you can go to the next level of getting, next slide please, to accreditation on testing or calibration laboratories according to, in line with 17.25. Actually, in Sri Lanka, in accreditation body, we have actually accredited more than 97, closer to 100 laboratories, which directly and indirectly contribute a lot to the national economy as well. So, and we see in university, Sri Lankan university system, a lot of laboratories are there. They're not taking much use of it. Sometimes we get a grant and do a research, and some of the equipments are abundant. So, and also this approach is actually now we are promoting, identify some of the universities to support them to come up with accreditation for laboratories to give their service to industries at a cost, right? So then the universities or the laboratories can, if they have a very good business plan, they can self-sustain the laboratory activities while teaching, utilizing that facilities for research and teaching, and can earn some money out of it. Next slide, please. I think, yeah, just to get some idea, actually, as we are engaging with our activities in our universities, those ISO standards, accreditation, certification, standardization, actually we have to build in our curricula. Some of the universities that actually they are working on that, because the understanding of this quality infrastructure and the deliveries of quality goods and services is a key. Otherwise, we do not have value for what we are taking. So therefore, I request, as all you are from education sector, think of incorporating some of the components on the concept related to the standardization we see most of the time in some of the education curricula, especially in higher education systems. So actually this is in our university at the moment. We are with some of the funds, we try to convert our learning model with integrating some of the standards, just to showcase, because once we send our students out, they are entering into a work world. The most of the institutions, organizations, they are complying to some of the international standards as a requirement for different stakeholders. So therefore, for that transformation, while we are transforming our system to deliver that quality education, so this is some of the approaches that we are thinking of. Actually, we in Sri Lanka, we are at the moment, this is a one case study from Sabaragum University, getting some of the financial support from some of the grants. We are developing some of the systems. Once we develop these systems, and that will continually support to improve the activity function, that is education, teaching and learning. Some are directly support to safeguard the environment. So with that, again, thank you very much for giving Sri Lanka Accreditation Board time, your valuable time to give some kind of deliver some kind of thoughts on how we can link accreditation or certification standardization to improve the quality education while maintaining the environment, safeguarding the environment. Thank you very much.